this meet.
Sir, sorry to disturb you, sir. Sir, this
Yeah.
is just officially welcome you.
Oh, sure. Please go ahead.
Then you will start, sir. So, good evening to all of you. I am Shantanu Mukherjee, your host for the evening. On behalf of Torrent Pharma, I welcome you all to this special online CME program under Back to Basics program. Today, we have gathered to have the discussion on JBP. I welcome Dr. Sudhakar Rao, who is the chief organizer of this program. And for presentation and discussion on this topic, I welcome our esteemed speaker for the evening. We have with us Professor Dr. Ranjan Sethi, the interventional cardiologist and HOD of Manipal Hospital, Bangalore. I am sure this unique platform where evidence meet experience will help all to enrich their knowledge even during these COVID times. So being the host of this program, let me brief some important aspect of this program. All participants to please keep their mics muted except the panelist. This is to avoid background noise. If you have any question to ask, please use the chat option and send it to us. And we shall present this in front of the panel members. And you can send this question anytime during the presentation. I welcome you all once again and request our the speaker, Professor Dr. Ranjan Sethi, to take the proceeding further.
Yeah. Thank you, Shantanu. And yeah, Sudhakar, you want to speak? Yeah.
Later, sir. Sir, you can start.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm happy to be here, and me and Sudhakar, we were discussing, and there are slides which are actually contributed by Sudhakar, so I'll mention it when we come there. So today we are here to discuss about JVP, which is jugular. So the first question which we need to answer is, what is JVP? Is it jugular venous pulse or is it jugular venous pressure? I know, I'm aware I've written it as jugular venous pulse, but the first question you need to answer is, what is it? So the answer to that question is that it is both. It is both pulse as well as pressure. That means when you describe, you have to make sure that JVP is raised or not raised. Whether it is raised or no, if you can tell the waveform, you need to tell that. So that's a very important aspect of this presentation. So JVP, this is something which you should understand from the beginning. See, some of them just end up in the exam by telling JVP is not raised, and you just keep quiet. That's not what is expected. What is expected is you need to tell at that very point, is it, what about the waveform? Now let's do a little bit, let's go through that and understand. JVP is extremely important. As we discussed, we have had a couple of discussion even before. I figure that most of the team is, most of the people who are attending are probably almost same. So there are some things which can, which are very important in exam. One is actually, things which can decide your whether the candidate passes or fails. Those things include predominantly, one of them is JVP, second is apex, third one actually is the second heart sound. These three things are extremely important. Some murmur you may, some thrill goes up and down, you're still okay. But as long as you got the JVP correct, apex correct, and second heart sound correct. Actually, to be honest, the toughest is second heart sound, and you could make a lot of mistake in second heart sound. Other two are not that tough, but they're extremely important. So let's talk something about JVP, because this is something which is extremely important, and also the understanding. As we discussed in last class of our palpation, everything has a meaning, and everything finally boils down to the last point. When examiner is in hurry, or when they are talking to you, the key thing what they will do is whether your findings match your final diagnosis. JVP is extremely important, because if the JVP is elevated for any reason, okay, then your final answer should have CHF positive. There is congestive heart failure. So, like for example, you are giving a case of MR, you would start with RHD, severe MR, normal LV function, PVH, PAH, but that one more point of whether there is Whether there is heart failure present or no, JVP is extremely important. So that's something which is important. And when do you do certain things in JVP? This is something which you are very familiar. So I'm going to touch with things which are which we need to understand, and I may not be touching completely basic things. So what is JVP? We all know it's a venous waveform which fluctuates predominantly in the area of the neck and preferably in right. What is the purpose? Purpose is actually to look at right atrial pressure, because you are happy here. Although there are 4 chambers in the heart, you can't look at most of the chambers. You know, there are findings which could be suggestive. Thing which you can actually see, especially in the pressure is concerned, is the right atrium, because it's in direct communication and you can see it with the JVP. And what helps you is there is a phase where right atrial pressure, that is JVP, actually can look at even the ventricular pressure. You know, that's the space called diastasis. That is something again the examiner is going to ask you. Although it's been described in a way, Paul Wood, who is one of the, if you are in the field of cardiology and if you are interested in anything to do with pressure and waveform, then Paul Wood is an important name, and he is the one who gave, and he understood the hemodynamics of JVP and its relationship. Jugular veins and carotid, we understand the anatomy, but what is important is carotid is more medial and jugulars are little lateral. This is something which will come very hand. And if you look at jugular, you will find it in between the 2 heads. So in between the 2 heads of the carotid, of the sternoclavicular joint is where you find the jugulars, the internal jugular, and you want to look at internal jugular to get the JVP. Now, when the person lies down in a particular angle, which could be, I'll discuss the angle here whether, a little later, you realize that it is almost in a completely straight line in the heart and the waveform gets analyzed. I have one request to make for people who are watching. Please don't touch your screen. Moment you touch your screen, you know, some scratch comes on the screen. So don't touch your the screen. Some scratches starts coming up and picture gets destroyed. Okay. So should it be IJV or should it be EJV? It should be internal jugular. Why? The external jugular has valves and hence may not transmit all the pressure. So it has to be internal jugular and preferably right internal jugular, except in cases of situs inversus with dextrocardia, where the atrium itself will be on the other side. Otherwise, please, you know, always do right, because left has to go down. Left has some structures which can press it. So it has to be right internal jugular. It's closer to RA, it's in straight line, and pulsations are very easily transmitted. This is what we already discussed, and this is the point I was trying to make. Although there is a left innominate which has a beautiful left innominate actually has a beautiful anatomy, in the sense embryologically it is a different artery compared to right innominate, but then since there are structures which can press it and since there is an angle, the pressure may not be transmitted, with the exception, you know, if the heart itself is on that side, especially right atrium, you could use it. Otherwise, use the right one. Now it reflects both right atrial and right ventricular pressure, almost always the right atrial. But if the tricuspid valve is open, as in case of atrial ventricular diastole, it could actually depict the right ventricular pressure. That's called diastasis, and that's called H wave. The wave you get between the cycle is called H wave. That wave is, it's very important for MCQ, but as a clinician now, when you're giving exam, that may not be the most important wave. Now, this is something which is always asked. It is more, and I'm sure all of you know, how do you distinguish? It's very important for you to distinguish, and very important for you to understand what happens. Carotid is much prominent, carotid is more medial, whereas veins are lateral. But please look into these things, because you could make this mistake. Anybody could make because of unfolding. So always feel for the pulse. You realize as you keep it down, you know, as you keep your finger at the lower part of the neck, you realize if it is vein, you can easily obliterate and it becomes very easy. If it is artery, it is not obliterable. It's better seen. This is something all of you know. And there are multiple waveforms, and most of the time, except in some exception, the inward waves in JVP are more prominent than outward waves. So the inward wave is extremely more prominent. Now, how do we measure it? What do we do? And how do which points are extremely important? So first, let us see whether the JVP is raised or no. And next, if it is raised or even if it is not raised, how do we pick up different waveform? It's pretty simple, but it's considered one of the complicated areas. So people tend to get a little confused here. Patient has to be comfortable, preferably the neck is rotated to the opposite side, but without strain. The back has to be rested. If you don't rest back, you're only able to turn using your sternocleidomastoid, and that's not very ideal for JVP. So you have to make sure back is rested, preferably with a pillow, or if you have a 30 to 45 degree. If you have some sort of a structure which can do it, it's extremely good. If not, use your own arm. Probably not during corona time, but non-corona times you could touch your patient and then identify. Neck muscle has to be relaxed, so you may have to bend the neck slightly and rotate it to other point. Next, very important point is what is lastly written. Angle is not relevant at all. People are very paranoid about angle. Should it be 30? Should it be 60? Or should we keep an arch here? Angle is not important, especially if the JVP is raised. You realize that it could be, you could get it even in sitting position. So the angle is not important, because you're only going to see the top of the venous pulsation and look at the perpendicular. So this is how it looks. So typically you need two scales. One scale which is measuring the top, like in the lower picture, and the second scale, you're actually measuring the height in the second scale. The one of them could actually be ice cream stick without measurement. It doesn't matter. The scale which is shown is the most important scale, because you're going to look at the perpendicular distance. Now, how can you do if the patient is just sitting up? The perpendicular system could be just up, just here. In which case you don't have to make them 45 degree. 45 degree, the importance of 40 degree came, the normal JVP, if it is not raised, in sleeping position, you can always see all pulsation. Patient is dehydrated, you could make the neck down little from the table, again you can see pulsation. But what is important is to see it in normal. So if it is 45 degree and if the JVP is not elevated, that's when you get just a flicker of movement at sternoclavicular joint, and that could be the one which could be telling us about whether JVP is whether it is present or not present. That's why the 45 degree. So if JVP is visible in sitting position, it's fine. That's it. You just measure I'll discuss the second point. You just measure the perpendicular distance. If not, you can make the person go down slightly, maybe 30, maybe 45, but not every time. So go down slightly and then measure the point. So sometime you may have to go less than 30, especially if RA pressure is there. If you just want to look at the pulsation, even lying down is present. So what's important here? Mark the upper point of pulsation. Now this becomes sometimes difficult. What is the upper point? When you have too many pulsations, you have A going up, V going up, X going down, Y going down. What is the upper point? So the answer to that is upper point is one which is likely to be there most of the time. It is there. That is the baseline. Once you see things going up and down, you also know the wavy baseline. So like what we do in cath, that mean, your eye should be able to pick up that mean, and you have to measure from that mean point. So that is the point which is very, very interested. So this is how you do. So you have two scale, one scale which comes here and one scale comes here. The perpendicular scale is very important. Okay. So now what point to take? This is very important. What point to take? I'll come to this calculation. What point to take? Now, there are two things. Traditionally and always, it has been sternal angle. That is something which you should understand. So in your exam should start by telling that measurement is from sternal angle and I will take the perpendicular distance. But the present concept, which is also there in Braunwald, I put this reference so that if somebody asks you, you can quote says that if you actually use sternal angle, you actually underestimate the pressure. The pressure is not really correct. You actually underestimate the pressure. So if at all, if it is possible, it's important to take the first sternoclavicular joint, where the sternoclavicular joint, that is the ideal point. But in exam, it's very difficult to argue with your examiner. So my suggestion is, do not argue. Start with the first point. Always tell it is sternal angle and explain, because that's something which has been there for centuries, if not decades. Then if your examiner asks, is that the point? Then you know that that person is trying to ask you something different. So tell them that the point of where the clavicle joint, the the sternoclavicular joint could be the point. Scientifically speaking, sternoclavicular joint is a better landmark because it correlates better with RA pressure than the sternal angle. But in exam, please start with the first one, because they can't fail you for telling the first one. But if they ask you more questions, stick to the second one. So that is one important thing. So two things we learned till now, that apart from the fact that JVP is very important, the two important thing what we learned is, it's not the 30 or 60 degree, it could be any, because you are anyway taking the vertical height. Vertical height does not change whether you go up and down. Even if you go up and down, the vertical height always remains the same. Okay, and based on that vertical height, because you are seeing this perpendicular, if you are standing, this is the perpendicular. If you are going down, the perpendicular does not change, whether it is 30, whether it is 20. But 30 to 60 is one of the best position to pick up a just rise JVP, and to distinguish a a pathological rise. That's where 30 to 60 comes. So I hope everybody's followed this. There are some chat questions. Let me just go through it once. If there is any, say that just sitting. Yeah, sitting position may not be. It's enough if it is raised, but otherwise, Dr. Gaurav's question. Otherwise, it may not be enough. You may have to, slide down. So start with sitting. Make them slide. But in a sitting position, a raised JVP is definitely JH. Sternoclavicular calculation is no, the calculation is not different. It is still +5. It's not different, because the studies actually showed sternoclavicular joint is a better marker, and Brownwald being a very standard textbook, it's not from any other book, it does correlate. But again, I'm just repeating, so do not make this mistake in exam. Start with sternal angle, and if examiner specifically ask you to go to this. Now, how do you measure it? Now it is very simple. See, for example, JVP says 7 to 8 millimeter above the whatever point, either sternoclavicular or sternal angle. If it is 8 centimeter, it's 8 centimeter of blood which it is raised. What you do, and then you divide it by 1.3, because 13 is the millimeter. 13 is actually the specific gravity of mercury. So you're converting blood, which is technically water, to mercury. So 13, but you do it with 1.3, because now you're converting a centimeter to millimeter. So 8 divided by 1.3, which actually becomes maybe 5, and 5 is a normal RA pressure. So you get 8, that means just visible. Most of the time RA pressure is normal. So that is how you this. Should the scale be perpendicular? Sternal should be perpendicular to the sternal angle, not the horizontal, sternal angle. So wherever it cuts, the perpendicular to sternal angle is what you measure. This scale is perpendicular to the upper point, and it's parallel to ground. The first scale, which could be ice cream stick, which is not a scale, it is parallel to ground and perpendicular to the upper marker. And the other one is other one is actually at this. So I think somebody wants me to repeat the measurement. I'll go back to that slide and show you, so that there's no confusion, because that's something which is very important. So let me go here. Okay. So this is how you measure. So for clarity's sake, we are not shown first sternal. You are actually showing the sternal angle. So first scale is perpendicular to the uppermost margin, and it's parallel to ground. It's parallel to ground. And the second scale is perpendicular to that scale, and which will also be perpendicular to sternoclavicular joint. It is going to be perpendicular here and perpendicular here. And what are you measuring? You are measuring this. you're measuring this scale, the second scale, which is on the manubrium sternae for this one. That is what you're going to measure. And how do you convert? Either you multiply by 0.76 or divide by 1.3, because 1.3 is centimeter, 13.6 is the specific gravity, but it's in millimeter. So when you convert into centimeter, it becomes 1.3. So that is the number. So I hope the measurement is clear. Please remember, the first scale could be any scale which is parallel to ground, and the second scale, which is actually perpendicular, is important. And it's not important to have this 45 degree. Wherever you see the upper margin clearly, that could be the point, but it can't be 0, because there is no perpendicular to 0. It has to be little elevated. At 0, everybody's JVP can be seen. So I hope this part is very clear. There is probably a little more question. Let me go through that and solve it here. Second scale should be, yes, ideally it should be sternoclavicular joint, because the present concept actually says sternoclavicular joint. But theoretically, you always tell by telling it sternal angle, but actual measurement should be sternoclavicular joint. But it may not be widely acceptable as of now. There will be time it is going to be widely acceptable. We keep seeing this, when the IE guideline changed in 2013, people were not ready to accept new IE guideline because they were not aware. So we need to give people some time to understand. Start with sternal angle, but in future when you do, it should actually be sternoclavicular joint. Okay, there's no doubt, there is enough data to show that that will be the point. So this is important. Remember this scale. See, in this scale we have actually put it in the sternal angle, this particular driven. So this is parallel to ground, marking the upper point like this. But what you should measure is what is here. And in this example, we have not put it at sternal angle. We have actually put it in sternoclavicular joint. Okay. So now let's look at the waveform and let's understand what is the waveform for. Okay. I hope there is no doubt in measurement. All of you know waveform, but for sake of repetition, I'm going to take just 1 minute to understand. A is atrial systole, so it's still ventricular diastole. V is ventricular systole, because that's when do you get A? When atria contracts and the blood goes up. That's where you get, there's no valve, so blood is both going down and up, so the blood is going to come back. That is A. When do you get V? V is when tricuspid valve is, it's all right sided, so nothing left sided. V is in tricuspid valve is full and the blood is flowing. Since tricuspid valve is closed, it is still ventricular systole. And what is C? C is considered, there are two mechanisms. One, it could be a transmitted carotid pulsation. That's what people believe. The second one is in isovolumetric contraction, the tricuspid valve actually goes up. That is C. Then the diastole, the downward of A to C is divided into X1 and X2 by C. So, but forget C. For C is something which you don't need, you don't have to remember, because the whole purpose of all this class is to make things simplify. That's why we are all discussing. So let me make it very simple for you. Forget C, remember A, remember V, remember X, and remember Y. What is X? Ventricular. When the tricuspid valve goes down, the RA pressure goes, the blood starts filling, but the RA pressure goes down. That is X. Okay, as it goes down, as it's sucked up, you'll get an X, but then the filling starts and you get a V. And then as soon as the tricuspid valve opens, there is blood which is rushing out, and that will become Y. So let's understand this waveform little more now with things which we commonly know. What are the things we know? We know S3, we know S4. Now, what is S3? Y is S3. Okay, because immediately it opens, Y is S3. And A is actually S4. No, because it is atrial boost, it is S4. Now, why am I emphasizing this so much? Because that's something which you have to understand. Now, the key point for us, I'm sure all of you have attended this class for one reason, how to identify different waves. And that's what I want to be emphasizing, how to identify different waves and what do each wave mean. Now, it's very simple in JVP. Do not get too much confused. Ideally, you have A, X, Y, and V. That means you have 4 events. Even if the heart rate is 60, in a minute, that makes it 240 events. And human eye, however brilliant, may not be able to decipher 240 events. Okay. So then if that is the case, how are we trying to tell before, after? This is something I keep telling. It becomes extremely difficult for anybody to tell this is before, this is after. So what I try to tell you is, identify 2 of the 4 waves. Do not identify all 4 because it's just humanly impossible. 2 of the 4 waves, whichever 2. It could be 2 outward, in which it is going to be A and V, obviously 2 positive way, or 2 inward, which could be X and Y, because it can only be X and Y. Or you could have 1 outward, 1 inward, in which case it could be either A and X, or A and Y, or V and X, or V and Y. So out of the 4, your first job is to identify which are the 2 waves which I am going to identify. That's the first job. Okay, 2 waves, not 4, 2. Now, if it is 2 outward, obviously it is A and V. If it is 2 inward, it is X and Y. So that part is very clear. If there is atrial fibrillation, it's very easy because there is no A, there is no X. So whatever you are seeing is V and Y. Okay, so AF, see, I know till now you were always worried about AF and diagnosing AF and apex pulse deficit. As far as JVP is concerned, AF is the best thing that can happen because there is no A, there is no atrial contraction, nor is there a atrial relaxation. So then there is no A, no X. So JVP, AF is done. If you see a positive, it is V or CV for some time, and if you see a negative, it is Y. So AF is done. So one disease, and 30% of your patients has, there is a statistical chance in your exam, if you're dealing with rheumatic, there is 30 to 40% chance it is AF. So you're saved there. So you could be dealing only with V and Y. Now tell me, you find 2 waves which are outward, or you find 1 wave outward, 1 wave inward. How do you identify this? Very simple. Remember, there is 2 outward waves, A and V. One of them is systolic, one of them is diastolic. Do not try before, after. Not going to work. It is a cycle, and you're going to get extremely confused doing that. So outward, inward, that's all. How do we time? Opposite carotid. You keep the finger on opposite carotid and see the wave which you are seeing. Imagine you are seeing an outward wave. Is it with carotid, or is it without carotid? Very simple. Without. Outward wave with carotid is V, because V is systolic. See, just look at this diagram. V is systolic. So outward wave with carotid is V. Outward wave without carotid is A, because there are only two outward, A and V. So I hope I'm very clear. If you see an outward wave, and if it is with the carotid, it is V. If it is without carotid, it is A. Or most of the time, the one more trick which I always tell, if you get confused, and if you're not a confused personality, it's diastolic, it is without. So if you're seeing a wave, you're not confused, it's very likely be systolic. So can the video audio of somebody's audio is on, can you please switch it off? So outward with carotid is V, outward without carotid, or if you're confused, it is A. Okay, now let's look at inward. Inward is either X and Y. So can you all guess which is systolic? X is systolic. So if you get an inward with carotid, it is X. And if you get inward without systolic, it is Y. If it is confused, remember A is S4, Y is S3, S3, S4 are diastolic. No, there's no confusion about S3, S4. Y, S3, diastolic. A, S4, diastolic. X and V, other two are systolic. So please remember, this is how you time your JVP. First, you see whether it is outward or in, first whether it is raised or no, and measure the upper fluctuating mark. That is what you measure. Once you do that, you either take sternal angle or sternoclavicular joint and measure the vertical height. If you're very interested, convert it to millimeter of mercury by dividing by 1.3 from whatever centimeter you get. Then look at the waveform. First job is to identify 2 wave. AF, very easy. You know, no, identify 2 waveform, whichever 2. It could be 2 outward, 2 inward, 1 outward, 1 inward. Time the waveform. If the waveform is with carotid, if it is outward, it is going to be V. And if it is inward, it's going to be X. If it is without carotid, meaning diastole, it is Y and A. So I hope there is no doubt here. I'm going to just see the chat just to be sure people have understood. Waves without carotid pulse, because one examiner you could do it with the apex, you could do it with timing. See, the basically you are trying to identify systole. So whatever way you want to identify systole, you can do it. So you could keep a stat, or you could palpate apex, and you could do, or parasternal because they are typically systolic. So with these you could actually do identify the carotid. But see, for anything precardial, I would suggest apex because it's the nearest structure. But for JVP, I would actually suggest carotid, but the opposite carotid. And then you're just, it's your ability to identify fraction of a cardiac cycle which makes you good in cardiology. It's the ability to forget everything else and focus on that particular zone. So when you're doing JVP, do not think of murmurs and all that. Just keep your finger. First identify, okay, I see one out, one in. That's it. I see that. Now let me put a stent. Out is coming with carotid. So it is V. And in is coming without carotid. So it's Y. So do not, this way you could make. And if you get a prominent Y, you're very likely to get a RVS3 along with that. So this is how we need to make it. It's not difficult. It's very easy. And please concentrate on that, and you will not make a mistake. Mistake comes when you try to do many of them. How you said outward and inward. Yeah, outward and inward is A is outward. The A is the wave which is positive wave. So it comes outward, it comes above, inward. X and Y typically starts going inward because they're negative waves. So anything positive which comes is A and Y. So in JVP, you see waveform. So you have an outer wave and an inner wave. The outer waves are A or B, inner is X and Y. Okay, that's how you identify outward and inward. I mean, that's what is typically A and B. Okay. Now, what does A wave mean? All of you know. Now, the problem comes, it's a pre-systolic wave, but do not get confused with that. Remember, it is just diastolic A wave. So anywhere where atria has to contract very severely, you would get a A wave. Okay. So X descent, we already, it's the relaxation. Normal JVP. Imagine somebody has a very normal JVP. A is more prominent and X is more prominent. That's what you get in normal JVP. A and X. S2V are correlating, sir, means that with carotid, no? Yeah, basically, don't try to correlate with the sound because there are again 4 more sounds or 2 more sounds. Just remember systole, diastole, okay? That makes it easy. I mean, later to understand it's easy, but when you time, it's only one thing which the most common error is actually systole or diastolic. Many people make this error. So remember whether it is systolic or diastolic. That's what we need to identify. C wave, the two mechanism which we already discussed. I think I should not go too much to the mechanism. Let me go to more what we are interested in, how to find out it. This is a very favorite MCQ question. Please remember that it is H wave. It's in protodiastole. That means it is between actually A and it's between S3 and S4. So it is between Y and A. So that is the time when tricuspid valve is open and JVP represents RV pressure. That is what is H wave. Typically, it is not seen, so you don't have to worry. So I did discuss about this. Forget X, okay? Forget X. C. Always talk about A and V, and normal JVP would have A which is more than V and X which is deeper than Y. The inward X which is deeper than Y. That's how the normal JVP works. So this is the difference between A and V. So A is, remember A is diastolic and V is systolic. Okay. So that's enough. Do not go too much. Large A wave. Where do you get large wave? You will get it wherever atria is very strong. You will not get A if there is AF. That's what we discussed. No A, no X. But if atria, it's like a diastolic pressure. So if the atria is at force, if atria is going to contract, then you get a large A wave. So tricuspid stenosis, in absence of AF, you'll get large A wave, but it's more common in RV disease. Okay, RV, anywhere where there is RVH, you get it. I have one request, please do not touch your screen, because whatever you touch comes on everybody's screen. So do not touch your screen. This, I think only I will be able to use the arrow. All of you, it will come as a marker and it will probably disturb. Please do not touch it. So anywhere where RV is very hypertrophic or severe, you actually get a prominent wave. That means if you're doing taking a case of PAH, you get a prominent A wave. PS, you get a prominent A wave. Even in TOF, especially if they're adult TOF, you do get a prominent A wave. JVP mean may not be raised, but A wave could actually be prominent with the JVP. So Dr. Vishnu has a question, differentiate IJV pulsation in carotid. Yeah, IJV carotid is important. I had a slide, I'll pass on the slide to you. So IJV is lateral, carotid is more medial. With inspiration, JVP typically falls, whereas there is no change. If you touch the lower neck, that's a very important finding. It disappears. And if you do hepatojugular, even with raised JVP, you're not supposed to do hepatojugular, but to distinguish artery and vein, you could press the upper abdomen, and then you can see the variation. So that's how you distinguish a artery and a vein, and in artery, how to see this waveform. Where do you get large A waves? So what do you see in this ECG? You're seeing actually a complete heart block. So there are multiple no, this is not a complete heart block. This is where the A wave is much more prominent in a RA. So you get a, you get a V. So anywhere where there is a bigger force, you get a large A wave. Now, what is a Cannon A wave? Cannon wave occurs with AV dissociation. Now, this is an exception. I always kept on telling your A's are diastolic almost all the time. Means A doesn't come with carotid. But Cannon A, it's something which is a very strong A, actually is systolic, because it is occurring when tricuspid valve is closed. So only exception where A is systolic is Cannon, and you could have intermittent Cannon, which means there is a AV dissociation. If you have intermittent Cannon wave, okay, that means sometime it comes, sometime it doesn't come. That is a AV dissociation. It occurs in complete heart block, could occur in ventricular pacing, could also occur in VT with AV dissociation. But a continuous NN like PSVT, you have PSVT, you see a JVP just fluttering like this, that is a continuous Cannon wave. So that means again VA association or AV association. But remember, Cannon is one condition where it is this. There's an interesting question by Dr. Kiran, how to distinguish Cannon and giant A wave. Giant A wave is a very prominent A wave. It's a diastolic wave. It comes without carotid, whereas Cannon always, although it's an equally prominent wave or more prominent, but it comes with carotid. Okay, that's how you distinguish a Cannon from a this. So this is how you see a regular Cannon wave, and this is how you say irregular. So irregular Cannon A wave is a sign of AV dissociation, not complete heart block. AV dissociation can be found in VT or can be found in this, whereas a regular Cannon wave is a sign of VA association. So again, VTs can have and PSVTs have. So I hope this we are able to play. This is courtesy Dr. Sudhakar. So I think we should thank him. Just look at the waveform. There is also audio, I think, in this. I'll stop the audio. Yeah, let's do only the video. So look at the JVP. You can see the pulsation, but I'm going to play it again, and you can see intermittently, suddenly this area looks very full. This also brings to one more point which people ask you: how do you pick up if the JVP is already above the sternal angle in the sternoclavicular joint here? If it's above the jaw, how do you pick up? Then your earlobe moves laterally. In arterial pulsation, it moves anteriorly. In venous pulsation, it moves laterally. How do you identify the upper margin? You identify by your arm and see where it is. That's where, how do you identify? In arms, wherever the vein collapses. So just look at this JVP. So intermittently, you can see the fullness here, which is affecting here. Let me see the next one. See, this was a question which was a giant A wave and Cannon A wave. Giant A wave is a very prominent, it is uniform, it's found in all cardiac cycle. Irregular Cannon wave occurs intermittently, not the regular. But if you have a regular Cannon wave, it is systolic. This is diastolic. Comes with carotid, comes without carotid. Where do you get absent A wave? It occurs in AF and sometime in atrial standstill, which could be familial. It can also occur in amyloidosis, atrial amyloidosis. The atria could go to standstill. That means you will get a P in ECG, but atria is not contracting at all. So these are the condition where both A and X is actually disappeared. Where do you see abnormal X? This is important. One, X is absent if there is TR, because then you get a CV wave, also called as arterialization. This GVP typically looks like an arterial GVP, and it's difficult, but it is still, if you touch it lower part, it disappears, unlike arterial pulsation. But just look of it, it actually looks like arterial pulsation. So absent occurs in AF, absent also occurs in this condition. Now this is again courtesy, all the videos are courtesy Dr. Sudhakar. And can anybody identify what you see? Again, I think the video can be out. So this is, can somebody identify this? This is a very interesting, can somebody type it and see what they find? Kiran or anybody? Yeah, I think some people have written. Let's see that what is the answer. Yeah, I think Dr. Vandana is right. So I know you can't time it, but if you see intermittently, Cannon wave, whenever you have intermittently, what you see is suddenly there is sudden fullness there. Intermittently, you're seeing it full. This is definitely a Cannon A wave. Intermittently, you see it getting full here, and it's a positive wave, not a negative wave. So this is a Cannon wave. So this could be a complete heart block or could be anything. Now, what are the abnormality of V and Y? V is prominent in TR, but we call it CV wave. It could also move. It's systolic because that's what we discussed. Most of the time, when you have a prominent V, you also have a prominent Y. You have wave coming up. It's like a wave in like in your seashore. Again, there the water cannot come out. So if there is a strong wave coming forward, generally the withdrawal also is stronger. So most of the time, whenever A is prominent, X is prominent. Most of the time, when V is prominent, Y is prominent. Most of the time, with some exception. That exception is what you have to see. Before that, can you identify what you find in this case? Some respiratory variation. Can anybody answer this JVP? If the video is not good, you can text Dr. Sudhakar because it's all his videos. If it is good, you can answer it right here. So what you see is a complete fullness here and a waveform which comes out and rapidly goes in. So what is the answer here? I know you can't time. So can you identify this JVP? Yes, Dr. Gaurav has written others. Yes, most of you have written. It's the CV wave, but comment on the descent. Can you comment on the descent also? See the CV wave. See CV wave. You can see the fullness and the wave coming. But whenever you have a CV wave, you need to comment on descent. You need to tell that the V wave or CV wave is prominent. With yes, Dr. Paul has written it correct. With the prominent Y descent, okay? So that's important. If you have a prominent CV wave, you need to have a prominent Y descent. If you don't have a prominent Y descent, there are, I don't know the name, it's written as academic, it's perfectly correct answer. So that is the CV wave. So Sudhakar, your videos are all perfect, everybody is liking it, and it's thank you for sharing that with me. You have a V wave and you have a Y descent. So when do you get a V wave with a Y descent? Most of the time, almost all the time, if you have a prominent CV, you get a Y descent. There are two exceptions to that. The two exceptions actually being One, if there is a RV dysfunction, if there is a RV dysfunction, then the Y descent will be slow. Second is if there is TS. So people expect you to answer this. Nobody expects you to tell CV. So in such a way, JVP, you would explain that JVP is very high. You see a prominent CV wave with a rapid Y descent. You're also committing when the rapid Y descent that the RV function is normal. If there was a RV dysfunction, the Y would become very slow. Okay, that's like imagine you are doing an echo and you have a E wave which is coming. If you have an echo, you see that the DT gets prolonged. The same thing happens here. So whenever there is RV dysfunction, the rapid filling stops. You get a slanted Y descent and a prominent A. There are signs of diastolic failure and diastolic attack. So prominent V in absence of TR, because TR definitely causes that. In absence of TR, it could occur in anywhere where the if there is large ASD, typically as A and V equal. ASD is one where A and V is equal, but ASD MR can have a prominent V wave. Okay, ASD MR, or if there is a variation in LA compliance, again you can have prominent V. Gearbox, because the blood is actually coming to RA, you'll have a prominent V wave. AF, no A, so the V looks prominent. That is the reason why you get prominent. I have one question for the group, whoever is there. Which RSOV will have prominent V? Is it RSOV to RA or is it RSOV to RV? Let me just put it. Which RSOV will have a prominent V? RSOV to RA or RSO to RV? Yeah, without TR, any condition where the compliance. Yeah, so we get one RA and one RVs, many RVs. So RSOV to RA actually has a prominent V because in systole, the more blood is coming. RSOV to RV, because now RV is thick and RV has pH and pressure, A is prominent. So remember, it is ulta. Okay, please remember this. RSOV to RA has a prominent V. Why? Blood is flowing in systole to atria. Whereas RSOV to RV, actually, because RV is thick now because blood is there, atrial pressure is increased. So A will be in the absence of TR. Okay, these are not in presence of TR. If you have a TR, V is prominent. So imagine there is no predominant TR, then RSOV to RA, because the blood is coming in systole, has a prominent V. RSOV to RV actually has more pressure on RA, so it is present. I hope you followed that. So let's go to the next one. Rapid Y descent. We already discussed rapid. Anywhere where the V is prominent without RV failure, without moderate RV failure, you have a slow, you have a rapid. In case of moderate RV failure, remember it is just like echo. Initially the DT prolongs, so Y will actually be less. But if you have a very severe RV failure, then E becomes much more. So you will again get a prominent Y descent. So wherever you get S3, Y descent will be prominent. Wherever you don't get S3, Y descent is not prominent. Okay, remember Y descent is nothing but RV-S3. So if you are confused, just look at that idea all the time. Slow Y descent is an exam question. So remember this: tricuspid stenosis, RV dysfunction, atrial tumors, tamponade, Y may be absent. I'm going to discuss tamponade separately, different from CCP. Most people believe CCP physiology and tamponade physiology is same. It's not same, it is different. So we could discuss. What happens in pulmonary hypertension? We already discussed, although the typical answer is without TR, A is much more prominent because RV it's a diastolic failure on RA. With the TR, CV is much more prominent. Okay. JVP with arrhythmias, we did discuss some of them. I think we'll skip that. Congenital heart disease, this is a typical question which is asked. Remember, JVP in ASD, A equal to V unless there is a problem with the valves on the either side. Otherwise, A is equal to V. Why? Right atria, A is more than V. Okay, always. Why? Because the filling, the more force is needed to put, compliance of atria is less. So V, see V, what is V? V is atrial filling, which is going to give raise in pressure, atrial filling. RA is an extremely compliant chamber draining into RV, which is also compliant chamber. So A is more than V on right side. But when you see the left side, LA is not that compliant. It is stuck by pulmonary veins. It's not compliant. It's also draining into a non-compliant LV. So when you have little more blood coming into LA, the V rises. V is nothing, it's delta V by delta P. It is change in pressure for unit volume. RA can take lot of blood, LA cannot take lot of blood. So normally if you look at the waveform, A more than V in RA, V more than A in LA. That's typical. If you have ASD, they mix up their property and typically A will become equal to V. But this is a conditional analogy. It's conditional. If there is severe PAH, then A will become more. If there is TR or MR, then V will become more. So remember, it is variable, but typical JVP is actually in ASD. And if you have Luttenbacher, that is acquired mitral valve, mostly MS, but it could be JVP is always raised, and most of the time V becomes more prominent. A Luttenbacher JVP is always raised. 90% of the Luttenbachers will have JVP raised, although it looks like ASD, but you feel it is ASD with failure, so A is raised. In VSD, it is not very important, but if there is PAH, A become prominent. So in ASD, A equal to B. In VSD, it's not very important. Cyanotic heart disease is a completely different topic, but if there is time, I would just run through this. It's very important. Eisenmenger. Cyanotic is either TOF or Eisenmenger. TOF, typically JVP is not raised, typically, but you could have a prominent A wave. Whereas ASD Eisenmenger, since there is lot of failure, A is always more in absence of TR. VSD and PDA, just the A could be prominent, but the mean pressure may or may not be elevated. In ASD, typically it is elevated. In VSD, PDA, it is not elevated. TOF JVP is something which people will ask you. Failure in TOF is not common. No, since failure in TOF is not common, mean JVP is not raised. If mean JVP is raised, there is a reason. Could be biventricular failure, could be hypertension, could be anemia, thyrotoxicosis, pregnancy, or a restrictive VSD. That's when the mean JVP rises. But A wave prominence can be seen, especially in adult. Okay, Epstein's is very important. Again, I want you all to remember Epstein. All of you know Epstein has a huge RA, and ECG is Himalayan P, but characteristic JVP, no elevation and no waveform. Reason? Because RA is so big, no pressure is transmitted to JVP. So I'm going to repeat this. Epstein JVP is typically not elevated because there is a huge RA and the blood doesn't reach the venous, JVP. So it's something which would be opposite of what you think. Just because there is a big RA, just because there is a Himalayan P wave, you do not have a prominent JVP and literally no rise of this. So look at this, this is a special wedge tracing showing that A is actually very small in Epstein's and not big, okay? So I hope there is no doubt here. Epstein's, no A wave. That's what you should understand, okay? I don't see any questions, so that means I'm assuming most of you are following everything what we discussed. Anything you want to repeat, just JVP in MR, I think tricuspid valve JVP is very variable depending on AF or no. Classical exam question is if there is TS, the Y descent. You're not worried about A and this. Y descent has to be slow. If the Y descent is rapid, you are committing that there is S3, hence there is no TS. They could have a prominent CV wave, but Y is slow. That's very important. I want to spend, say, maybe 2 minutes or 1 minute to describe this. You have two conditions, which is cardiac tamponade and constrictive pericarditis. And I'm sure most of you believe they are mirror image of each other. Means in both, you think there is constriction and the ventricle cannot expand. But honestly, it's not true. The physiologies are entirely different. Although both are called restrictive physiology, and you keep discussing them as one chapter, three conditions you always discuss: cardiac tamponade, constrictive pericarditis, and restrictive cardiac. You always club them and think them as one chapter. But to be fair, they are not one. These two are different physiology, and we are going to discuss how they are different. And JVP is the one which beautifully explains the difference in these two physiology. Tamponade is, you're right in thinking tamponade as a closed bag with lot of fluid pressing on RV. So tamponade is very simple. It's pressing on RV. It is there and it is fine. So that's how the tamponade that's how the tamponade appears, and the JVP is elevated. In both these conditions, both JVP is elevated. But let's understand what happens in tamponade. Tamponade, since the volume is completely filled, and there is typically an early diastolic collapse in tamponade. There's early diastolic, and with it's filled, blood can enter heart only when blood leaves heart. So what is a tamponade physiology? Total volume fixed, it's a box. So when the blood enters heart, blood can leave heart. That's tamponade physiology. So to enter, it has to be a descent. It can't be a or V, no? So which of them is systolic? Blood leaves heart when RV pumps or LV pumps. So blood can leave heart only in systole. Hence, blood can enter only in systole. So X is prominent. It's not very prominent. What happens is JVP is raised. X is the only wave you see. You don't see A, you don't see V, you don't see Y, because there is an early ventricular collapse. So only X is the only one which you see. That means when the blood enters, which X is systolic, no? That's what we have been discussing. And entry has to be negative. It has to go down. So X is only when blood enters and blood leaves. So X is the only prominent thing in tamponade. Not very prominent, but only wave. It is actually normal X, but in a raised JVP, that is the only one which you see. So hence it is X is the only prominent wave which you see in cardiac tamponade. Now let's look at constrictive physiology. Constrictive physiology is different. If I have to explain constrictive physiology in one sentence, that's very simple. That sentence is actually failure of transmission of intrathoracic pressure to heart. That means lungs become negative, heart doesn't become negative. That's why there is interventricular dependence. Do not think of constriction as constriction. It's not holding on the heart. It is, but that's not the physiology. Physiology is actually at pulmonary vein level. PA pressure falls, PV pressure falls outside the heart, but inside the heart, the pulmonary pressure does not fall. Hence, it does not fall. The left-sided flow decreases and compensately the right-sided flow increases. That is the physiology. It's not same. So what you see here is you see both X and Y prominent. You know CCP has a pericardial knock, hence it has a prominent Y. No, knock is nothing but early S3. Y is prominent. So both X and Y are prominent in CCP, but Y is the most prominent wave in CCP. In RCM, both X and Y are prominent again. X is the most prominent wave in RCM. Okay. So please remember, when you're talking about cardiac tamponade, constrictive pericarditis and RCM, tamponade only X, Y. Blood can enter when the blood leaves. So X is systolic, it can enter. CCP physiology is different. It's failure of transmission. X and Y both prominent, but Y is the most prominent because there is knock. Remember, there is knock. Y is most prominent. And in RCM, again, X and Y are more prominent, not as prominent as CCP, but X is the most prominent. Okay. So I hope you followed, and I'll be happy to answer question here. It's very important to understand these differences. Okay. Where do you get X only? Tamponade, X and Y both in CCP RCM, but RCM X is prominent, CCP Y is prominent. What is Kussmaul sign? That is yeah. So there are some slides I think I can share with you. So constrictive pericarditis, both X and Y. Y is the most prominent. Okay, that's what you find. So let's see one of the video which is sent by Sudhakar. I think it's a very interesting video. Can anybody answer this? In chat, let me keep the chat open. Can anybody answer? I'll come to that, Dr. Gaurav, but can you see the picture? And we are going to, yeah. What do you see here? How many waves do you see? And see, let's be very specific. How many waves do you see and what do you find out? Anybody? Yes, Gaurav has written X, and this, I actually see two things, Gaurav. See, it's flickering, it's like a W pattern. So you see both X and Y here. So this is, yeah, very likely a constriction, both X and Y. Okay. So it is very likely constriction. So this is very important. I mean, I'll send the slides. I may not repeat here, but what I want you to know is in restrictive cardiomyopathy, X descent is very important. Let me come to Kussmaul later. And in tamponade, X is absent. Okay, please go through that. Now, two things, I think in 5 to 10 minutes, we'll finish it off. One is hepatojugular reflux. It's not reflex, it is reflux. And it could be abdominojugular or it could be hepatojugular. When do you do it? You could do it every time, but you're not supposed to comment on it. If you have a doubt between atria, arterial and venous, I do it all the time. Just press and say, if I see something bulging still more, I would think it is venous. You could do it, but it's supposed to be done only when JVP is not raised or in doubt. It's very useful, but if it is done, if hepatojugular reflux is positive, that means JVP is raised and it is important. So how do you do it? Either on abdomen or liver, you put a constant pressure of 10 to 30 seconds, okay? And look at the JVP. You could do it abdominojugular or hepatojugular. They mean the same. And once you look at the liver and if you press it, that's the typical way of looking at JVP and see it is. So what's a normal response in almost everybody? Slight increase of the waveform occurs in everybody, but it's not sustained, So less than 3 centimeter lies for less than 15 seconds is normal. If it is more than that, it is abnormal. Moment you have hepatojugular reflux positive, it's a sign of incessant heart failure, or but end of the diagnosis, you should light CHF positive. It is very important, is CHF positive. So what is a positive response? If the rise is more than 3 centimeter, it is positive, or if it persists beyond 15 seconds or 10 seconds, depending on different books. But if it's sustained rise, too much rise or sustained rise, is actually a positive. What is the mechanism? You're pushing on abdomen, so there is more blood which is coming to the heart now. Since the heart is not capable, especially RV is now not capable of taking that blood, the blood actually goes up and you see it in the JVP, and this is how it looks. If you're doing a RA pressure and measuring, moment you press, the sustained rise or too much rise is positive. So that leaves us to discuss just one point of Kussmaul sign. What is Kussmaul sign? Don't think about paradoxical pulse here. Just think about Kussmaul sign. That's a pulse. So Kussmaul sign is inspiratory rise of JVP. What do you expect? The JVP should fall. Why should it fall? Because the intrathoracic pressure comes down. The blood is sucked in. For some reason, if the blood is not sucked in, not able to suck, there is more blood, but it's not able to go in, it comes up. That's called positive Kussmaul sign. So inspiratory rise in JVP is positive Kussmaul sign. Now, what is the mechanism? You could go to all the different mechanisms, but none of them, actually, I'm sure you must have read a lot, but none of them describe it properly. If you ask me, for me, there is only one mechanism. When you breathe in, so this also means that RV or RA now is not able to take extra blood, but that blood gets shifted to upper in JVP. So if you ask me, the major problem is when diaphragm goes down, whatever mechanism they do, when the diaphragm goes down, like hepatojugular, blood is now pumped up. And this blood cannot go to RA. So anywhere RA cannot take this, it goes up. It's very classical for restrictive cardiomyopathy because that's the problem of RCM. RCM is a diastolic heart failure and it's predominantly right-sided. So it rises, but it also rises in condition like CCP and tamponade or RVMI. The key point is extra blood, preferably because of inspiration, diaphragm going down, pumping it up. RA not able to take, goes up to the JVP. That's the key point. That's why you get Kussmaul. So traditionally, Kussmaul is found in but it's very classical of RCM because it's found almost all the time in RCM, but it can also be found in CCP tamponade or RVMI. Okay, so let me just revise here. Just take 2 more minutes to revise. So what did we do? We understood here that JVP is both jugular venous pressure and pulse. That means in any case, you should say JVP raised, not raised, waveforms normal, not normal. What's a normal waveform? A slightly more than V is a normal waveform. So what else do we need to do in JVP? Measure it properly. You could be measuring from sternoclavicular joint, or you could be measuring from the manubrial angle. Both allowed, but this will be more scientific. Perpendicular height, 2 scales. This scale, the perpendicular to the ground, that is the scale which is most important, and measure that. That's important. How do you identify waveform? AF, very easy. No A, no X, just forget it. Only V and Y. Non-AF, look for 2 of the 4 waves and time it with opposite carotid. With carotid outward, that is positive wave, is V. With the carotid, negative wave is X. Without carotid, positive wave is without carotid is A, and without carotid negative is Y. A is S4, V is X. A is S4 and Y is S3. If you remember that, I think most of them is just fall in place. Different condition. Tamponade, CCP not synonymous. Tamponade as X, CCP as X and Y more. RCM as X and Y, X more. Kussmaul can be possible with any condition. So this tamponade and country things are very confusing. Yeah. It's confusing. I agree with you. But please remember, the physiologies look the same, but they are different. Do not intermix. Your actual thinking holds true for tamponade, but CCP mechanism is slightly different from tamponade. Okay. Kussmaul we did discuss. So any other question? And PPT, I think Sudhakar will definitely share. Dr. Siddharth, thank you. And CV wave with rapid Y descent. Yeah, CV wave also has rapid Y descent. If it is not there, then there is a reason, which is RV. RSOV to RA, the blood is coming in systole, that V will be prominent. RSOV to RV, blood is going to ventricle. Atria has to contract more, so A will be more prominent. CCP physiology, I'm going to do it, Dr. Ramesh. So CCP is failure. So you should understand this word. It's failure of transmission of intrathoracic pressure to heart. That means lung become negative, pulmonary veins and LA does not become negative. So in inspiration, less blood goes to left side. So you get all the features of CCP, and right takes it. Whereas when you talk about tamponade, it's not. Blood goes out when blood enters. That's what we call as this. So Dr. Ritvik has a question. How do you manage hypotension in chronic? Yeah, you give lot of fluid. Do not remove the tachycardia, but do the pericardiocentesis. More than inotropes, fluid is a treatment. Yes, thank you. I hope most of you have understood. I'll be happy to answer, and we always have Sudhakar to mediate. Yes.
Sir, I think one thing I just wanted to many of the people ask how to demonstrate JVP when it is above the angle of mandible. How do you?
Yeah. That's an important question, because that will be asked to you. One, your earlobe moves laterally, because the whole part is swollen, so the earlobe moves laterally, not front and back, but this way. It's a venous pulsation. Once you see that, ask them to raise their hand. Your veins which you see in your hand, as you raise, it starts collapsing. Okay, so you see the point where it is full, that will be the JVP, but it's not going to be perfect because there are valves. So it's a very theoretical question, but you need to answer it. Now there is a question about JVP elevated 4 centimeters, then the estimated RA pressure will be 4 plus 5. Yeah, 4 plus 5 divided by 1.3 if you want in millimeter. So all JVP, whatever you get perpendicular light, you need to add 5, because from this point RA is 5 centimeter below. So JVP, whatever you get in centimeter of blood, you need to add 5 and then divide by 1.3 if you want it to be in centimeter millimeter of mercury, or you could quote it in centimeter of blood. But it's important to tell JVP so many centimeters above the sternal angle or sternoclavicular. People understand what you're telling when they do that. You don't have to do extra mathematics. People understand that. But in DM sometime or DNB, at the end, they might ask you to do a pressure chart with all the pressure. That's where you need a RA pressure. Okay. And I think you all understood about giant A wave and Canon A wave. And we should thank Sudhakar for all those beautiful videos. Yeah. Thank you, Sudhakar.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I think we answered all questions, sir. Yeah.
Yes, JVP in SVC syndrome, yes, it's non-pulsatile but raised. That's what you get it in SVC syndrome. You know, it's elevated. You can see by this time when you look at the neck, you know whether the neck is full or not full. In JVP, whenever it's elevated, neck becomes full. You know, it's like looking at skin turbulence, you know, leg swelling. So if it is full, that is when the JVP is raised. Yeah. JVP palpable, it can be palpable in TR because there is arterialization. Otherwise, no. Share PPT, yes, we will do that. I will send it to Sudhakar and, you know, he will definitely share it with you.
Yes, sir. I think we'll conclude, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. Thank you, Sudhakar. Thank you. Yes, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, thank you, Dr. Sethi, for your exhaustive presentation, sir.
Mm.
We also enjoyed like anything, sir. Thank you very much.
Mm.
So we are now towards concluding this wonderful program. I must say it was an exciting program, which has enabled us to gain from the wisdom and expertise of the speakers and panelists. I take this opportunity to thank Professor Dr. Anjan Sethi and Dr. Sudhakar Rao for their great contribution in making this program possible and successful. I am thankful to all participants who have taken time out of their busy schedule and to attend this program. I thank all of you for making this event a successful one, and I sincerely hope your support will remain with Torrent in times to come. Thank you, goodbye, and good night to all, sir.
Good night.
Good night, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Dr.
you. Bye bye. Stay
Bye
safe.
bye. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Sudhakar.
Yeah.
Sir, very personal thanks to you, sir. What a contribution, sir.
Yeah.
What a
Thank
talk.
you. Thank you, Shantanu. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sir, we will be looking forward to attend again, sir, or to contact, sir.
Sure.
You will be